Ask any movie industry fan or studio executive, and they'll tell you the same thing. R-rated movies almost always make less money than a PG-13 blockbuster at the box office. And if the movie you're making can appeal to fans of all ages, then it definitely should. At least that's what they used to say. But Deadpool may have changed all of that. The Merc with a Mouse road to reality wasn't easy, with the final rating one of the most debated topics among fans. Would it play it safe at PG-13 and water down the crudeness of the hero, or go to the R, doing justice to the insane violence and humor of the original source material, but potentially earning less money at the box office? Fox went with the latter, and it paid off. Not only has Deadpool soared to become an even faster moneymaker than any Marvel solo movie, but one of the most profitable R-rated films of all time. And it hasn't taken long for rumors of an R-rated revolution to start, from an R-rated Wolverine 3 to even an R-rated cut of Zack Snyder's Batman v Superman for home media release. Fans are already worried the success of Deadpool is going to have some nasty side effects. We're breaking down the real reason Deadpool succeeded, and why other studios should and shouldn't take a lesson from the foul-mouthed blockbuster in our latest docu-video, How R-Rated Superhero Movies Could Change the Game. R-rated failures. First, a reality check. Part of the reason that Deadpool was such a surprise hit is because so many hardcore comic movies before it were disappointments or outright failures. The rise of comic book blockbusters in the 21st century may have implied that any comic adaptation would be a hit, but studios soon learned that stamping their film with the words "based on the graphic novel" wasn't a cure-all for surefire success. And as much as some might suggest today, over-the-top violence and adult humor didn't help either. Even movies with a passionate fan base, like Marvel's Punisher or the ultra-violent Dredd, seem to prove that cutting kids out of the comic book equation sliced profits in half. And where the Punisher became a cult success, but struggled among critics, even the critically praised and stylish Dredd couldn't break out of its R-rated shell. Deadpool is lonely among high-grossing R-rated superhero features, so if studios think the facts have changed, we'd bet they're in for a rude awakening, since Deadpool might be the exception that proves the rule. What exactly earns an R rating? You'd think it would be common knowledge, but the content that actually earns a movie the R rating isn't cut and dry. So fans might assume that Deadpool's mix of blood, gore, violence, sex scenes, and mile-a-minute adult humor is an obvious indicator. But even the smallest moments and split-second shots can make all the difference. For instance, Joss Whedon's Avengers got an initial R rating for the method and bloodiness of Agent Phil Coulson's death. A few cuts were made around it, and a wide PG-13 release was in the bag. In other words, the difference between PG, PG-13, and R can be a sizable one, but fans shouldn't assume the worst. In fact, the first trailer for DC's Suicide Squad seemed to hint at the possibility of an R rating. Yet it has also been suggested the film will be gentle enough for PG-13, confirming that a movie's rating isn't the whole story. What does it mean for the movies? In the short term, it's hard to know just how much interest there is in capitalizing on the surprise success of Deadpool's R-rated action and comedy. But fans probably don't need to worry that the integrity or plot of highly anticipated movies will feel a difference, at least at this point. After all, a comic book adventure written and directed for a mass audience isn't guaranteed to make more money by adding in R-rated content. Still, that doesn't mean studios aren't eager to capitalize on the R-rated buzz either, or the assumption that an R rating might be just as promising or, quote, true to the character for its own story. In the wake of Deadpool, it was the third Wolverine movie that gained attention, with rumors that it could pursue the same rating. But that's not the whole story. After all, the X-Men's second solo movie was filmed with an R rating in mind too. The sequences, swearing, and blood were all filmed knowing that they might be cut for a PG-13 rating, which they eventually were, but were added back in for the extended cut home release. In other words, knowing that the next Wolverine movie is aiming for R doesn't say much, since the last one did the same. But Deadpool's success could convince Fox that releasing the uncut, original version of the movie wouldn't cost them much. And the ticket sales they did lose could be offset by the added marketing, advertising, quote, Wolverine's first R-rated adventure and the most faithful version fans have ever seen. But what stirred up even more controversy was the idea that the big blue Boy Scout himself, Superman, could be swallowed up by the R-rated fad, with Batman v Superman's own home video release earning an R rating. Again, things weren't exactly as skeptics immediately assumed. Most elements of Superman's origin story in Man of Steel went over kids' heads. So in his showdown with Batman, younger fans might see two superheroes duking it out, but older viewers would grasp the battle of politics, ideologies, morality, and acceptable levels of violence actually taking place. The marketing has promised the same themes and ideas as any R-rated film, not to mention a brutal fistfight between the heroes, and Bruce Wayne's promise to make Superman bleed. Knowing that a bit of blood and gore earned Marvel's family-friendly Avengers an R rating, it's not crazy to think that Zack Snyder crossed the same line in Batman v Superman, possibly more than once. Theaters won't see those scenes, but an unrated cut, like Wolverine's, seems like a no-brainer for older fans who are actually intrigued. Classifying the R-rated cut in the wake of Deadpool may be a clever marketing move on DC's part, and a win-win. Allow a bigger audience at the theater, and cash in on R-rated superhero fans months later. But if Zack Snyder already had to cut the scenes in question, like he did before releasing the unrated cut of Watchmen, then an R-rated Batman v Superman was completed months before Deadpool hit theaters. But that may be a sign that some old mistakes are actually being repeated. More on that in a minute. Repeating past mistakes. Sure, R-rated heroes like Spawn, Deadpool, and The Punisher prove that some stories need to be told to adults in order to be told right at all. But the ugly truth is that those dark, brooding, violent heroes came from a decade filled with imitators. Alan Moore's Watchmen and Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns elevated the comic book art form by going dark, and the publishers chased the success of dark, immoral, violent stories overnight. The result was a mess of excessively grim, adult, dark characters that almost killed DC and Marvel. So even though there's a chance and a place for dark, serious superhero movies to make it big, movie studios chasing the same prize as publishers decades earlier could result in a similar crisis. An R-rated Batman v Superman cut may not be copying anything but Zack Snyder and Warner Brothers' vision, which is a completely different conversation to be had. What does the future hold? The good news is that instead of looking at their superhero movies and asking how they can earn an R rating, studio executives may give shelved scripts and sideline characters a second look when their adult content may have, previously, seemed like a problem. But if Deadpool can work by prioritizing ratings behind a quality story, then why can't Batman, or Lobo, or Moon Knight, or Carnage and Venom? Hit movies won't be any easier to make, and studios will have to resist the mistakes of the past. But after Deadpool, no comic book movie will ever be written off because it was only going to appeal to, or be shown to, adults. And that is good news for everyone involved. Those are our thoughts on the surprising success of Deadpool's big screen debut, and how the movie industry could and should react. But what do you think? Let us know in the comments, and remember to subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one.